Rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by a moment of silence.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everyone. Please be seated. Jana, could we have roll call, please?
Yes. Trustee Stauff. Here. Trustee Rhodey. Here. Trustee Belt. Here. Trustee Pater. Here. Trustee Kreiser. Here. Trustee Grabowski. Here. President Knudsen.
Here. Item 2 is public hearing. We have none. Approval of excuse me. Item 3, approval of minutes and privilege meetings. Minutes from the August 19, 2020 special village board meeting. I hope everybody's had a chance to look them over. Are there any questions, comments? Anything to do with the meetings as they are presented this evening? If not, I'll look for a motion to approve the special village board meeting as presented. Minutes.
Motion to approve, Rhodey.
Second, Grabowski.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion is hereby carried.
I abstain.
Okay, we have one abstention. Then we have the minutes from the August 19th, 2025 regular village board meeting. Again, I hope everybody's had a chance to look them over. Are there any corrections, comments as the way they are presented this evening? And again, if not, I'll look for a motion to approve those as presented.
Motion. Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Nope.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Motion to approve the minutes from August 19th for the regular village board meeting.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Discussion. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion is hereby carried.
Abstain.
Okay, one extension. Item 4, citizen comments. There are no citizens here, so we're gonna move right on. Ordinances, a review, discussion, and possible action on ordinance 2025-11, an ordinance to amend the official traffic map for the village of Pewaukee to add a stop sign at the railroad crossing on Kampmeyer Drive. Again, I'd like to thank Trustee Jim to Grabowski for putting this on and getting this taken care of. So who wants to take it, Jim, or?
I can because it's quick and easy. I gave the background on it at the last meeting. We just had to do the formal process of updating the traffic map, but this was an installation of a stop sign that had previously been there and we believed to be removed when the crossing was redone and upgraded. So, simple.
I'd like to make a motion to approve an ordinance to amend the official traffic map to reflect the stop sign at Kampmeyer Drive.
Second, Grabowski.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Ordinance 2025-11 is hereby adopted. Resolution, review, discussion, and possible action on resolution 2025-13, a resolution committing to the required funding for the Pewaukee Public Library and requesting exemption from the 2025 Waukesha County Library Tax levy for 2026. I think the two new board members may not understand this, but so Matt, do you want to just give a quick heads up on it?
Be glad to, Mr. President. So the Waukesha County, like I believe every county in the state, charges a library tax for the unserved communities in the county. So it's those communities that don't have their own public library. And then those funds that they collect get distributed to the various libraries in the county for their patronage that come in from outside that use their facility. The communities that have a library should be exempted from this tax because they're taxing their residents to run the library. And so Waukesha County requires every year a resolution from each community that hosts their own library committing to the fact that they're going to fund their own library so that they're exempt from the county tax.
Are there any questions or comments from any of the board members? If not, can I have a motion to approve?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the resolution committing to the required funding for Pewaukee Public Library and requesting an exemption from the 2025 Waukesha County Library Tax Levy for 2026 purposes.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is hereby carried. 2025-13 resolution is hereby adopted. Old business, review, discussion, and possible action to approve a permanent sanitary sewer and water main easement for the Glen of Pewaukee. I believe this is being brought back because of...
If I may? Yes, President. So the board did review this proposal at, I think it was its last meeting, maybe the August 5th meeting. At the time, it was, the revised easement contained some language that the developer had proposed, that the village would pay for any restoration if there was work done within the easement. The board at that time rejected that idea, and so that went back to the developer, who agreed to keep the original language in the easement, stating that the Glen or the subdivision would be responsible for any restoration for work done in the easement.
Are there any questions or comments?
The only comment I would add is if the board is inclined to approve this tonight, is the developer still has to provide some essentially proof of consent from some of the property owners where lots have been conveyed from the homeowners association or from the developer. So if you are inclined to approve this evening, that's fine. I would just ask that it be subject to the final approval of the village attorney.
And you're okay with the wording in this version because it reverts back to the old wording?
I am fine with it. The main source of concern from staff on that point was from Public Works. So as long as they're satisfied, I am satisfied.
Dave, you're good with it? Okay. I'll make a motion to, how am I wording this? Approve the permanent sanitary sewer and water main easement for the Glen of Pewaukee Lake pending staff review.
I'd say subject to the approval of the village attorney.
Subject to the approval of village attorney.
Second, Painter?
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Are there any questions, comments? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion is hereby carried. 8A, new business, review, discussion, and possible action on 2026 budget proposal from the Parks and Recreation Department. Matt, I'm sorry, Nick, would you like to give us a little preview here?
Yeah, of course. Thank you. So included in your agenda packet was our budget highlights specific to the village portion of our budget. And just the highlights, operations, our revenue continues to grow. In 2026, we plan to add a 5th summer day camp site. So that's why you see the relatively significant jump in revenue. We turned away about 46 families. And I think we had almost 60 kids that we were not able to accommodate this year for the first time. So we feel that if we add a 5th site, we can accommodate those families, also potential additional growth. In line with that, our expenses are relatively consistent, but just with the growth of the camp staff to accommodate those kids, we've budgeted that portion reasonably conservatively. Looking at capital equipment, our equipment is really consistent, equipment and vehicles. For the past 3 or 4 years, we've been somewhere between probably $42,000 and $50,000 worth of commitments to fulfill that from the village board. And then in terms of park improvements for next year, we would be looking to utilize the Village Park Improvement Fund. And then if we would get to a point of having only $5,000 remaining, that's where we would come back with a potential ask for the Lehman Fund to help us complete some crack filling at Liberty Park for both the tennis and basketball courts. And then next year, we would like to convert to LED lighting under the pavilion at Kiwanis Village Park. Regarding the Lehman Fund, it is very healthy at this point. We currently have a fund balance of about $353,000 in that fund. Operationally, we're seeing growth and proposing that for next year. We're increasing slip rental fees. We've consistently sold gas at a nice profit, and then rent continues to grow at a 3%, 2 or 3%, I forget, change next year again. So we continue to increase those fees while our loan payment is fixed, our insurance has been reasonably steady, and other expenses are pretty consistent for us. The one proposal that I may be back later this year with, we're still working through the Parks and Recreation Board. We're looking at the deck just on the west side of the property. It's village property, we own it, even though it's connected to the other building. The deck has some boards that are in really rough shape, potentially rotting out. And we're looking to repair or replace. And if we replace, we may go with a concrete patio. Just that would involve a lot less maintenance and longevity. So that's something we're looking at, and we have a quote in hand that we could potentially take action this fall yet, or possibly next spring before season. And then we have, in this summary, there's just a few outstanding items. We don't have wages and benefits finalized on the city side yet. And then insurance, while I had a number in here when I created this document, we don't know that that number is firm. So we had an 11.5% increase in here. I'm not totally sure, but there's a potential situation that goes down actually, which would always be nice. So as we get more information, we'll certainly share that over with Administrator Heiser, get the budget updated, and let you all know. That kind of concludes my summary today, or highlights. Happy to answer any questions you have.
The board have any questions or comments? Bob?
Nick, could you get an estimate, even if it's just an estimate, what the improvements would cost at the village parks?
So to do the crack filling on Liberty Park tennis court and basketball court, we're looking, I think it was like $2,800 this year, so I'm estimating maybe $3,500 next year. And then I'm waiting on LED lighting conversion, but I'm thinking somewhere in the neighborhood of about $10,000.
Okay.
Yes, Jim.
Regarding Lehman Park, just thinking of revenue generating, I don't know offhand, and I apologize if there is some DNR regulation about it, so that might answer this quickly. Any thoughts of upgrading the fuel pump there to be self-service so that gas could still be dispensed after hours of the bait shop? Like a newer pump, self-pay, self-service.
Yeah, I think with it being marine gas, I would have some pretty significant concerns, because if there's a spill.
That's what I was saying. I didn't know if there was
I don't know that the
it
average person.
like New Jersey has to dispense gas into.
Yeah. So I could look into that. I don't know if there are restrictions on that, or operationally, if it's in our best interest, what we gain from revenue, could we potentially lose in terms of DNR trust or abiding by expectation and rule. So I
was just thinking, just because I see a lot of people pull up after hours or after 6 p.m., especially now, and the pump's closed. So
yeah,
and,
I mean,
and I
it's
know
worth
it is a good
looking
revenue.
into.
It is a good revenue stream for us. So I was just thinking, probably good ROI if possible.
Yeah, and we would want to see what that cost looks like in terms of upgrading the pump to a self-service, and then what kind of break even we could get to.
Right.
But I can look into that.
Like I said, it might very quickly end if the DNR says no. It has to be.
Right.
It has to be pumped by employees.
Any other questions or comments? Anybody like to make a motion on anything?
Is this action or is this just?
Well, it is slated for action.
If I may, it is slated for action, but I think it's incomplete at this point.
I would agree.
Yeah, so I think Nick is looking for feedback. If there's
Yeah,
something-
feedback or direction is probably the best. And I don't want to say that you all don't have control over some of the variable items that we're still waiting on. But what I've tried to prepare, at least ahead of this meeting, was everything operationally that gets us to the level of service that we've had or where we feel improvement is needed, and a budget that speaks to that. So grounds maintenance, building maintenance, equipment, supplies, things like that.
So in regards to the like Lakefront Park, the money that's left in the fund now, where you said, you know, Village Park would go towards like lighting and other upgrades, and I think you had Lakefront Park listed as like green space improvements
Green.
or green
improvements.
so energy efficiency.
Yes.
Got it. Okay.
Which we completed LED lighting there this year, either this spring or last fall. So green, not green space.
Got it. Okay.
Any other comments or questions?
This is just specifically budget, right, that we're trying to discuss? So like the dog park opportunity, is there any?
So that's on here. I try to keep a continual list of
Radar.
potential funding options, and need and want, while also being realistic. And I keep it as opportunities to keep it pretty vague because we've had some discussion about dog parks before, and some of the spaces we've tried to identify, we've had concerns over volume of space or type of turf stays wet, things like that. So it's on here as opportunities because I have no idea what might come, but that it has been something of interest, at least in the last probably 3 to 4 year discussion.
And are you still having an issue contacting a deck contractor for the?
Deck?
Yeah, sending the notes that,
Yeah, so we've tried, I think, over 3 seasons, and usually they will at least come out and meet us. About half the time, they just tell us they're not interested in giving us a price, and the other half, they tell us they'll get us something and then still don't.
Good business.
So that's why we've started to look in, so we've looked at 2 different options, potentially repairing it, not replacing it, because that's not really a skill set our full-time staff have, but repairing it like what we did to the balcony portion, that's the 2nd floor of the building,
Right.
where it's just boards that have issues replacing them. Our fear is if we start taking off too many boards and what we find underneath in the like base structure, we have no idea when that was built, if it was really structurally sound to start or done correctly. And if we start ripping boards off, there might be a point of no return. So that's why we tried to get an alternative solution with the concrete patio. We know that that would likely require DNR communication. It might not be a permit, but at least confirming that with them. If it needs a permit, we could apply for that. And just trying to find an alternative solution where it would be relatively low maintenance. We go concrete patio base and then like a commercial decorative railing type.
I can 100% guarantee you that will be scope creep if you start digging into that deck.
That's the fear of it, right? Because
It's not even
when
worth
you
it at
think
this
deck,
point.
first it's the base, then you're realizing, okay, are the railings sound
Yes,
and
no.
secure? And that's why we've started
Yeah.
to look at other options.
It's a good call.
Any other questions or comments? If not, thank you, Nick.
Thank you.
Greatly appreciate it.
Thanks, Nick.
Thanks, Nick.
Item B, review, discussion, and possible action on the 2026 budget proposal from the Pewaukee Public Library. Nan? For those of you who don't know, Nan is our library director, and she has done an excellent job.
Oh, well, thank you. Well, good evening. Hard to believe that we are talking about 2026 budgets at this point in time, but here we are. So within your board packet, I did give you very detailed information on what the library budget it looks like at this point. This has been approved by the library board, and my reason for doing that was twofold. Since we had a new joint library agreement sort of late last year, I see this as sort of a reset year to impart those details to you. So you have the complete breakdown, every expenditure, every revenue, where I get to those numbers. And then also, I provided the library board and you with a narrative of where big changes come in, what different things are affecting that budget. One thing that I'd like to point out is, as a joint library, if you tried to compare this budget apples to another library, you can't really compare. You really have an all-inclusive budget here. I plow the lot, I mow the grass. If anything needs to be fixed, I bring in contractors to do that. So for operations, you really have an inclusive budget for all of those details. So with that, I just wanted to provide those details, and if you have any questions, obviously, please ask away. Secondly, I wanted to provide some detail on how the new joint library contract has sort of changed how things have happened in the past. So with the new joint library contract now, both libraries give that minimum amount, and then above the minimum, anything that we're requesting, there's a calculation that's done, and that I believe is in Appendix B for you to see how those numbers come out, the statistics that are used. So that is also provided to you in great detail. And lastly, another item that's new with the new joint library agreement is our capital plan and also our capital budget. So we have our capital items that we're proposing to you, looking out for 5 years, things that we will need to be done. And then also we have gotten updated numbers on what both of those capital projects would cost. So one of the things, the library's roof. Good news and bad news. We did have a recent evaluation of those roofs done free of cost by a reputable company. They came back with the assessment that the gabled roof can go another 10 years. They're hopeful that that can wait a while, which is good news. The bad news is the flat roof does need immediate attention. And along with that, what we had thought both roofs would cost, that is pretty close to what the flat roof alone will cost for replacement. And that is a pretty accurate, up-to-date number on that roof. And that sentiment or that evaluation was tested with the recent rainstorm. We did have quite a deluge down the elevator shaft. And interestingly enough, that evaluator was in before that rain. And as I spoke with him after the rains, he said, yep, I knew you were gonna have a problem with that elevator. So that was just sort of evidence for us that yes, we have a situation there that needs attention. And so with that, a little bit different from Parks and Rec, because from here, I have also submitted my city, so I need to go to them. I have not met with them as yet. So I was asking, I did request that an approval be considered tonight, so that if you do want to change something up, I can inform the city that something has been changed. And then likewise, if something happens at the city that affects these numbers, I will obviously be back to you. So I'm just trying to work out how that will work, if Attorney Gerlinski sort of agrees with that game plan, and how we can all work together to get to the final endpoint together. Sure. So thank you. Any questions that you might have?
Bob?
Yeah, just a quick couple questions in regard to the fund balance. Just to clarify, in my mind at least. So you talk about there being the possibility of $57,000 in spending that could be done yet. Okay, and does that in Appendix A then, you do talk about 17.33%? Okay, that does not account for the $57,000 that could be spent?
Correct. So I sort of talk about that as a hypothetical, because obviously you don't know until absolutely December 31st what that's going to look like.
Yeah.
But the budget for 2025, $57,000 was put in from the fund balance to balance our operations budget. So if hypothetically that whole amount is spent, then our fund balance would fall to about 13% of our annual operations budget. So, and Obviously, I won't know until that time occurs, but that is sort of the well, it's not even the worst case scenario, because if we would have something else blow up in the library, we might have to use fund balance to fix it as well. But yeah, so it's just not my recommendation to continue on that path if possible. That fund balance, the library board did adopt a new policy, a fund balance policy this year, in which their goal is to keep that fund balance between 15 and 20% of operations. One of the things that did occur this year that we realized is how important that is just for our cash needs at the library. We had money invested and we had to pull out some of those funds just to pay our bills for the library at one point. And that occurs simply because our appropriations from both the city and the village, they come on a monthly basis. We're giving a monthly amount. And usually in the beginning of the year, our cash needs are usually more. Bills come due. Property insurance bills, January. Our system bill for all of our computer system, they send us in January. So there just tends to be a lot of cash needs earlier in the year. So just like with our home budgets, you pay your tax bills, your insurance in January, and your cash flow is affected throughout the year. So
Thank you.
Any other questions? I just have one that, okay, you glanced over the water going down the elevator. Is that on the flat roof side?
yeah,
Okay, so you're looking to replace the flat roof and the air conditioning in this budget?
no. So the flat roof, and the other item that is requested is for the HVAC control system. And for me, what I've learned that is, we have a computer that tells us sets all the set points in the building. Then there are sensors all over the building that are used to communicate with those set points, control the heat, the air throughout the building, the humidity. So it's that whole control system for our HVAC system. And I believe that is original to the building. So,
So it's a little outdated.
I'm sorry?
So it's outdated.
It still works. And it's just how comfortable you are with, do we replace that while it's still working and we know that it will need to be replaced and it could fail at any moment? Or once again, we go to the point where one day I walk in and it's all kaput. So, which could happen or could not happen. So
you want us to approve the library budget this evening as you presented with the flat roof in it? And the other.
Yeah, so the operations budget, and effectively what you're approving is that over the minimum amount, you've already committed the min. So the over the minimum amount is the $5,977. And then in addition to that, I would ask that you consider approval of us moving forward with proceeding with those two projects, starting to get bids, and the commitment that we could hopefully do those two projects in 2026. And those, yeah.
Matt, do we have to separate those in the motion, or can we keep all that in one motion?
Well, I guess it depends on if the board is okay with both of those items being included. So I guess some discussion has to be had from the board's perspective as to what is, I guess, approvable, and then a determination should be made as to how many motions we would need.
On the HVAC controls, is that the number you provided, was that with guidance from a contractor already?
Yes, total.
Mechanical?
Yes, he just came by and he gave me an updated quote last month.
Okay. Was anything explored, and I'm drawing a blank on commercial side, if there's focus on energy incentives for increased efficiency or anything like that?
He's coming to see me next week.
Perfect.
So, right, so if there are any incentives, absolutely.
Okay.
Rebates that could be had, hopefully that will change the number.
Okay.
So I guess it's more of, right, you
And
never know
if
until you know.
if you're just
the
doing controls
commitment.
without actual equipment, it's not going to be a massive number. I was just wondering if you've at least explored that. So
Right.
great, thank you.
And I think that the joint library contract does indicate that the library board does not have the ability to approve those contracts. We can bid them out, but that would require, once those numbers came back, it would require board approval in order to move forward with signing those contracts and completing the project. So
Okay.
One last question. I'm going to assume, which I don't like to do, that the insurance covered the issue with the water down the elevator shaft?
So we were very fortunate in that the elevator stopped working. I had MEI come in, who was our contractor for that. He let everything dry out, turned it back on, and everything came back on and worked. I have it smells a little weird in there, so I'm working on that. So just had the carpets cleaned. So there's a little smell issue going on that I have to figure out. But fortunately, that was not a catastrophic insurance event.
And
This time.
Yes, yes.
the roof
And-
section that leaked, did that get a minor repair or something?
And it did. The company that came and did the roof evaluation for me, he was very kind to send one of his workmen over immediately to address the entry points that he saw and charged us $250 to complete. So,
Thank you. Are there any other questions or comments?
I guess just, we were replacing the flat roof with another flat roof?
yes. Yeah. I mean, I think that's how,
Yeah, architecturally, I'm sure we have to do
right.
it that way.
It has to, yeah.
I had a father who was a building inspector who despised flat roofs.
Yeah. And unfortunately, I think it's nice, they were surprised we don't have any mechanicals on that flat roof. But once again, that elevator shaft is like built up above that roof. So there obviously is some design consideration as to why that was made a flat roof in the first place. I do not know. I will probably know a lot more about roofs in the near future more information than I ever wanted to know, but.
Well, yes, Nick?
So if we go ahead and move forward with this, you still have to provide the proposals for the roof and the controls for us to approve as well?
Absolutely, yes.
So you're just looking from this board for authority or a direction to go ahead and bid?
Right.
Okay.
Because of the fact that as I go back, obviously with the capital projects, you are responsible for the lion's share of those projects. So if you feel that that's not doable for you next year, for me to know that when I go to the city, that would just be helpful, because then I could tell them the village would like to proceed with this project, or if you are not able to, then I also know that I can tell them that, and they can, we can remove that from the slate. So, so I figured that's, working with the library board, that's sort of the best way that we've decided how do we handle the two groups so that we can all work together and get to the same point.
That being said, are there any other questions or comments? Would someone like to make a motion then?
So again, Matt, how many motions are we making on this?
Well, I guess, so there's definitely one motion to provide direction as to the bidding of the two projects.
Yes.
And then you're also looking though for approval for the budget as a whole that you proposed?
So the approval for
Be above the
the
minimum.
commitment above the minimum.
Commitment above the minimum.
Yes, that's all right, because pretty much you've already committed to the minimum, so that's,
By the resolution.
yes,
So,
exactly.
so really you're looking for she has two action items. I'd recommend you do them as two separate motions, just for clarity's sake.
Okay, I will make a motion to approve the budget with the additional over minimum.
Second, Rudy.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Discussion?
Just real quick. So this, you just need 5,700 extra dollars?
Right, above the
Minimum.
minimum amount, correct,
So we're making a motion for $5,700.
right.
And yeah,
And
the budget plus that.
yeah.
Okay.
And see too, it kind of flops between entities, because your entity, your amount above the min is usually lower, but your commitment for the capital is more. But then when I go to the city, their commitment of the minimum, above the minimum is
Yeah.
larger, but their capital is smaller, so.
Just being clear.
Yeah,
Thank you.
yes, exactly.
Okay, so I have a motion and a second. Further discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion is hereby carried. Do I have a second motion for the bid process?
And is this approving the bid process for you to seek bids on this, or
I think
take
it's
these
I
numbers?
think it's more direction.
Yes, right.
Direction?
Direction to proceed with the bid process, because ultimately they're gonna be handling
Right,
bidding it out.
and then it comes back anyways.
Correct. You still have to, they're not making an approval on a proposal.
Okay.
I think it's just direction to,
Then
that's what you're looking for.
I will make,
Absolutely, yes. So if you feel right, you want to maybe push the controls out because that, to a later year, then if I could have that direction so that I know that.
well, I mean, at this point, you might as well get the bids to see so that we can make the educated decision later. So I will make the motion to approve the commencing the bid process for both the roof and the building controls.
Second, Peter.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any more discussion? Bob?
One quick comment. Feel strongly about the roof, has to be replaced, okay? A little bit less concerned about the controls. When we do get that, when you do get that information, please provide the benefit that the library is going to be getting by having updated controls, so that we fully understand that.
Absolutely,
And your focus rep should be able to provide some sort of,
direction, sure.
and cost savings from an electric standpoint and all that, so.
Great. Yeah, Matt's always looking for me to put things in the Friday update, so once I have that meeting, I will be happy to provide that to Matt. He'd be excited to hear from me for the Friday update. So we'll keep you in the loop on how that goes.
Okay. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is hereby carried. Good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you, Nat. Okay, review discussion, review discussion and possible action on an introduction of the 2026 budget overview for the village. I hope everyone's had a really good chance to look these over. Really excited about what we've seen so far. Matt, don't bring us down.
All right, I'll try my best. Thank you, Mr. President. So this is the first of 6 reviews that the village board will have for the overall budget. And I realize that it's the first time for 2 of the board members. So tonight we are starting with the general fund, and that puts us about 2 weeks ahead of where we were last year. However, this is still very, very preliminary, and there's a lot yet to be determined. The board needs to keep that in mind. So what this draft of the budget includes, it includes all known increases for health insurance for 2026. It includes the proposals from the library and the parks that you heard tonight. It includes a 3% wage increase for staff. And it includes the maximum allowable, the maximum tax levy allowed by the state levy. What this draft does not include yet, it does not include an updated fire EMS fees. We need to wait to get our notice from the city as to what our portion of the fire department expenses are. It does not include, thank you. It does not include updated property and liability insurance, which we probably will not get until October from our agents. It does not include updated state revenue items, so we're obviously waiting for the Department of Revenue for those things. It does not include any new debt or associated capital items, and it doesn't include the utilities yet. So obviously there's a lot that needs to be clarified. However, with what we know so far, it does leave us in a positive situation with a small surplus and a mill rate that would drop to $3.73 per $1,000 of value. So what I'm looking for tonight is some feedback and some direction. I need to come back at the next meeting is the plan with some capital proposals and some potential borrowing to go along with that. I'm wondering how the board would react if there would be a proposed 2% increase to the mill rate, which is less than inflation. And bearing in mind as well that based on our discussions last year, we tried to balance that with whatever's going on with the fire and EMS fee. So last year, there was an increase in the fire and EMS fee, and we attempted to offset that with a small decrease to the mill rate. So that could again be the case once we get that far down the path.
Any questions or comments? Yes, Nick?
So Matt, you have general estimates of what's not included, correct? You said the EMS fee and all of that stuff. Okay. Those are not gonna be added to this.
Well, they'll be updated, so.
More detail?
Right, included in them are the results or the amounts that we had for the 2025 budget.
Unfortunately, I have not had a time to review this in great detail at this point. So just point of clarification on the numbers here. The 2024 actual, I'm sorry, 2025 projected, is that a 12-month projection?
Yes,
So that's what we're anticipating based on what we have left for the year is gonna be our final number. Okay, just want to
Correct.
clarify that it's not just through like July 31st. Okay, thank you.
Did have one question when I was going through it. I'm misunderstanding it or misreading it, but for DPW and administrative salaries for them, looks like we're taking a significant cut in 2026. Are we firing people? Because it says it's only 47,000 of what we're budgeting for 2026.
no, that would be an error on my part.
Because that would probably like a 6-figure error, right? Or because actual or proposed is 110 in 2025. So that's
Let me take a look at that.
obviously, I'm sure you could find it. You've probably been staring at the sheet for a while.
Page 62
Thank you.
in the agenda.
Yeah, we significantly under budgeted for that this year, and that should be adjusted, you're right. Because we're well above that.
Correct. That's what threw me. I was like, all right, if we're already well over what we budgeted, I don't think we're going to be well under next year.
Yeah, right. That's a good catch, Trustee Grabowski.
So the 2025 projected is for the full 2025 annual, the current actuals where we are to date.
Current actual was through August 19th, which is when I ran that report.
And then current budget is for the year?
Yep, that's the 2025 budget.
Okay.
Any other discussion or questions? Any proposals to Matt? Any suggestions? If not, we'll move on. Okay. Thank you, Matt. Review, discussion, and possible action from R.A. Smith to survey Capitol Drive.
Oh, sorry. I just had a question on it, but yeah.
Yeah, so this is in response to some of the strategic planning discussions we've been having to address potential parking issues at Kiwanis Park. It's already been brought to my attention that it doesn't reflect some of the discussion that we had at the September strategic planning meeting where we talked about expanding the parking southward toward the park along Capitol. So I think I need to get an updated survey proposal from R.A. Smith, that's what I think.
That was going to be my question, because we had discussed the existing parking lot on the other end, extending that.
So I guess if the board is comfortable, just, I don't know, Matt, if we need to formally defer it, or if I can just take it back and get the proposal updated.
I think the board is fine taking no action, given the explanation you've given.
Taking no action?
So this will be back on, at the next meeting then?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. All right, then we'll go on to the next one. Review and discussion on status update on repairs on the Copmeyer lift station. Matt, who wants to take this?
Well, I'll start, but I'll leave it to Dave to provide the real detail. Just to remind the board, we've had a long-running project to update the lift station on Copmeyer Drive, and it exists within the railroad right-of-way. And we are having trouble getting the railroad to respond to our proposals. And as the timeline gets drawn out, the village could incur additional expenses related to this project. So Dave, I don't know if you want to take it from there.
I also invited Dave Arnott from Hooker Nookie. So he's been involved in this project longer than I have. So the main thing, we didn't put any action on for tonight, but we just wanted to make you aware of this project. It's one of those ones where it's already been bid out. We have a signed contract with a contractor. They're ordering materials, they're storing materials. We just got our first, did we have the pre-construction meeting? No, we didn't have the pre-construction meeting yet. And this is an odd situation. There's at the end of Copmeyer Drive on the east end is where the existing lift station is located, and that needs to be rebuilt and slightly expanded. Dave can probably explain it a little bit better than I can.
So this whole project started in about 2021, where we conducted a study for the village on if that station could be eliminated, and it could not. We worked with the city of Pewaukee as well to get their flow rates to the station. It has to be expanded. So we finalized the design in the fall of 2023. During that fall and summer, we were in touch with the railroad. We're going around in circles with the railroad on who to talk to. We finally got a hold of a gentleman that would give us the time of the day, but he would not respond to us in writing. He would just talk to myself and Dan Nays, and I think a little bit with Dave Beekle. We'd have meetings. Dave and I documented those meetings. At that point, he gave a verbal okay, which really didn't mean anything at that point. The project was decided at that point to bid the project out. So that was in the winter of 2023, 2024. The cost came in high. The low bidder indicated that the village could save money if we allowed for an alternate of constructing the building in place. Because our first approach was to have a prefabricated building. We thought that would be advantageous to the village because of its location with the railroad. So we rebid out the project in May of 2024. We allowed the original type of prefabricated building. We also allowed an alternate price for constructing the building in place. And it turns out that there is a savings of about $70,000, allowing the contractor to construct the building in place. So at that point, the village awarded the project. We were happy to get that cost savings. The effective date of the contract was July 17th, 2024. Since that time, Attorney Grolinsky has been aggressively coordinating with the railroad. The contractor has been submitting shop drawings for equipment. All the equipment has been fabricated. It's in a warehouse by the general contractor, Mid-City Construction. So at this point, the holdup is the railroad and the permitting. Everything else is ready to go.
Questions?
How, I mean, how is this possible to operate along with the, are there special, and nothing against Rugramoki, obviously I know you're highly respected and everything, but are there specific ones that work with the railroad and the fact that we couldn't get permits for the repaving of the easements? We couldn't, you know, around just on our road projects now, and now we can't get a response on a lift station construction? Like, there's no line of communication to Canadian Pacific?
Well, there is a line of communication, but they have the benefit of essentially being a monopoly and acting like a monopoly.
Well, that's what I'm saying, is
Yeah.
that, like, it's, is this every municipality that has this same issue? Like, that you guys work with? Anything along the railroad, get no responses?
It's not atypical. We get very slow responses. We get prolonged time frames. This one has been a little bit worse than we
I was gonna say
anticipated.
2 years, though?
This is also not a normal project, because there is an expedited permit system for just to put a pipe under the railroad tracks.
Mm-hmm.
They hire a consultant to do that, so you don't have to work through the railroad. And this, because this project is so odd, their railroad and their attorneys are working on it. So it is a little bit more of a different project.
The whole station is in the easement.
The easement. And,
We couldn't find any history on how this got approved.
right. And in your opinion, what's the life left on the current lift station? Like, how much time are we working with here?
I would say
Well, that's what I'm saying, is it
under
like,
5 years. So there aren't any good options to go back. The village needs
no,
this
that's what I'm saying, is
station.
we need it, I just didn't know if you're like, it's day to day, we're limping it along here type thing, you know, but
I think in general, it's in fair condition. It's
we were trying to be proactive.
right. There are some health and safety concerns, some confined spaces that the new design will address.
Mm-hmm.
It'll have more capacity and be a lot more operator friendly with the new design. And we did look at, can it be moved here? Can it be moved there? Can it be shifted out of the easement? And it just couldn't. It's in a real tight spot.
There's nothing that we can legally pursue to
It's their-
get them to respond. I mean, I know it's their land, but this is,
It's their right of way.
yeah, and there's, so yeah.
I mean, what about the easier to ask forgiveness than permission approach?
Yeah, it's something that's, I would not recommend.
What about, we've been there for so long, we own the property?
The issue with that is the project calls for an expansion
Expansion,
beyond the existing footprint,
If it was same footprint, we could,
potentially pursue.
yeah.
The thing that concerns me is that their inaction is causing us cost for storage of materials and increased costs on the project.
Correct.
And they have no liability or concern about that.
Nope.
I mean, they don't, because at the end of the day, it goes back to whose land it is.
Okay.
So they have not expressed a concern. I mean, we have every which way told them the necessity of this project and the timeliness of it, that we are ready to go. This is the last thing holding this up, and that has not swayed them to date.
Are we able to ask them to take on these fees then for delaying our project?
You can always ask, but I would not even would.
I was just gonna say, there's only so much heavy-handedness we could get to before they tell us to pound sand and get completely off of their
And
property.
that's, there's a balance. You're exactly right. You don't want to bite the hand that feeds you too much, but I get it.
We do want to quiet some also, right?
Yeah, well,
Are there any other comments?
oh my God.
Is there anything that we can do to support you to help with this?
When's the last time correspondence was reached out to the,
Last week, and they did receive a response that it's still within their regulatory bureaucracy.
And do they
you guys
have,
don't know?
do they have a protocol timeline, like a preset, like, okay, you'll hear within 1 to 2 business years?
I have asked for that, I have not received a response.
Early on, also, Attorney Galinsky did contact the Office of Commissioner Railroad.
Right, also without
I was
response.
gonna say, also does not respond
Also
to us.
without response.
Yeah.
So just to be clear, the general contractor has not come forward and asked for more money yet.
Yet.
They could. Yeah, they are so busy. Basically, what I feel is as long as the village is flexible with the time frame, they have so much work they can't probably do the project anywhere. So if the village is flexible with the time frame and is, you know, allowing the project deadline to be extended, that will go a long way. There hasn't been any threats or anything like that on their part. They've asked about it, and we've informed them we're still working with the railroad. We'll let you know as soon as possible.
And Dave, you said that you had taken notes throughout this whole verbal side of it. Matt, what is the legality of a verbal, or how binding is a verbal agreement within?
It's one representative of the railroad. That's been my concern from the beginning. It's one gentleman who has a title, but his ability to bind an entire corporation here, flimsy at best.
I'll say, so it's,
Was it a phone call? I mean, I'm sure they have.
It was a
recorded
series of phone
lines, right?
calls.
Right.
I mean, to at least to say like, oh, well, we started the work on it because we had a verbal agreement from XYZ noted here on this date, this time, whatever, and then could at least play, if they do decide to try to slap our wrist, be like, oh, well, sorry, we had an agreement to, we had the permission to go ahead. We'll hold off until we get the final, you know.
The issue with that is subsequent to those conversations, we have had correspondence now from the railroad saying that they need a written agreement.
Gotcha. Okay.
There is, so this isn't totally, you know, like it is somewhat like we're talking to a wall, right?
Right.
But at this point, we do have a draft license agreement in play. It's been exchanged. So there's at least documentation going back and forth.
And there's no,
Right now, the current status is they have provided their template license agreements to me. I have sent them comments as to what the village needs to see for this project, because what they sent is very bare bones and generic. It doesn't really apply to us. And there's been one exchange of documentation, and that's where we're at. I still have not gotten feedback on that initial exchange.
is there anything in the state of Wisconsin that allows for, that has set precedent that municipalities, when faced with a health and well-being emergency, can take immediate action?
Limited, so that's very general, and I get what you're asking, right? It's a general statement. What I would say is from a general response to that would be yes, there is precedent. The problem always comes back though, that this is not our land.
Right, but that's what I'm saying, is that if this was to fail soon, or what have you, that it's, hey, we're within our right to make restoration, and
I think the key there is, I don't want to get too detailed in that conversation, but I think the key there is restoration. I think there's something.
Not proactive construction.
What we're looking here is really expansion and upgrade. That's the reason we are
in this,
going hand in hand to the railroad saying we need this expanded footprint.
Mm-hmm.
I think the hypothetical you're speaking to is more of, yes, we're looking at imminent failure. We need to get in there
and do this. You can't hold us up.
Which no one is saying we don't have access to what we have now.
Right.
That's not been on the table. Right. This is for the expanded project, the upgrade.
Okay. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thanks for the update.
Item F, review, discussion, and possible action to proceed with the quiet zone for the railroad crossings at Forest Grove and Oakton. When I looked at this on Saturday, I realized that it was supposed to be Forest Grove and Gottmeyer, the two end ones. But it's too late to make any changes. The gentleman I'm talking to that has asked to have this put on lives on Forest Grove. And I don't know, what can we move forward with this and even talk about just doing the two, or?
Are you
should
asking
we?
me?
Huh?
Are you asking me?
Yes.
I think staff, the administrator, has a recommendation on this.
Okay, go ahead, staff.
So I'm a little confused at that update, President Knudsen. It's my understanding that the crossing at Kopmeyer does not have the updated technology yet,
Right.
which,
Is what's holding it up.
right, which we're expecting to hear from the Office of the Commissioner of Railroads at our diagnostic meeting on Thursday. We're expecting to hear that they're gonna require us to upgrade that before allowing a quiet zone at that crossing. So if that's the request from the resident, that's almost dead on arrival, right, thank you. In that, that's, we're expecting to, I don't know that we have official correspondence for our quiet zone study, but we're expecting that at the diagnostic review meeting. What I understood the proposal or the request to be was for the two crossings that do have the up-to-date technology, which is Forest Grove and Oakton, that those two would proceed independently, their own quiet zone, so that they wouldn't have to wait for the other two crossings, which, admittedly, staff has not pursued this with any of the authorities, but my concern is that we're just going to make this way more complicated and muddy to an already complicated situation. And that we have a proposal in place for the four crossings it's progressing, although I understand it's not progressing as fast as we want it to.
Yeah, I mean, I've had residents at every crossing ask me to get it. So I don't think we should, I don't know who this gentleman is. Now, unless he's willing to write a check for the upgraded to the other ones, I don't think we should put his request over any other resident who has asked for their crossing to be a quiet zone. And as Administrator said, I think we continue as a package. Who knows, maybe we get good news at the diagnostic meeting and they say, you know, we can do something with this. But I don't think we cross this crossing until we get that information back from the OCR.
Nick, you had your hand up first?
Yeah, being newer, I'm obviously aware of the four crossings. So what I understand is Kopmeyer is the last one that needs to be reviewed.
Mm-hmm.
So Forest Grove, West Wisconsin, and Oakton are already cleared and will be for quiet zone. And now we're waiting on Kopmeyer from this assessment to see what we need to do in order to make that.
No, nothing's been cleared yet.
Correct, but we're saying we need to do this improvement here and then we'll issue the quiet zone request. And they could still deny that, right?
I think we need to upgrade two, we may be required to upgrade two crossings. I think there are two, Kopmeyer and West Wisconsin are both missing what they call the constant warning system, which is the most up-to-date motion detectors.
So excuse my ignorance, but I live right by West Wisconsin. There's been construction there for 2.5 years. Railroad workers going up and down. We're under the impression that that's being updated for safety purposes and everything, and we're progressing to get it to a quiet zone. So that one is still unaddressed.
That's what the inventory revealed that our engineers performed. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
It does blow my mind that we were selected to receive this funding to upgrade these crossings to be safe, and they wouldn't they wouldn't do the whole package at once, and that just blows my mind.
I think one thing we've got to remember, the closed corridor project was completely separate
Right.
from the quiet zone effort. Now, it got us 90% of the way there, and the federal and state government paid for that work to be done, okay? My concern with changing anything right now, where we're just doing a piecemeal approach, is we've already seen with every other project that we've had with the railroad, you change anything and it delays and delays and delays. I think this board has been very, it's been unanimous in their approach that they want this quiet zone to take place. And I think any change we make beyond what the plan has been in getting all 4 of them done would be a huge mistake on our part and would cause more and more delays. So we should continue, in my mind, we should continue forward with the path we're going, understand the costs and the ramifications. And again, hopefully the railroad approves if we do spend the money for the new signals.
Actually, hopefully they approve it outside of it.
Yeah.
That's what I'm hoping for.
Yeah.
And that could happen on Thursday.
And we'll find out more on Thursday.
Okay. So just to be clear, to date, we've done some work to barricade it off and protect the crossing better and update that equipment. But then there's 2 stops that still need sensors.
Yes.
Okay, so 2 stops need sensors. That's what we're waiting on,
Well,
right?
that's what we expect to hear on Thursday.
Okay, so 2 stops need sensors. And then we gotta say, okay, let's go get those done. And then we issue a request from the railroad to see if we can make it a quiet zone, because we're officially upgraded. And then we wait. And wait.
Well, right, there's a period where there are some required waiting or cooling off periods between notifications. But I think once we have to go ahead, those are actually relatively short. You go back to my original memo, I can resend that to you, kind of lays out the process. Once we get the official word on the sentence, we can go from there.
Okay, great, thank you.
The good news is we've got a roadmap that we can follow, and as long as we don't change things, and we'll find out more on Thursday, it's still, I don't want to say full steam ahead because you don't know how quick it's going to be, but at least we're heading in the right direction.
Do we need a motion on this?
Yes.
Okay, so review and possible preserve the quiet zone railroad cross. I will move to deny, make a motion to deny proceeding with the quiet zone for railroad crossings at Forest Grove and Oakton.
Only.
Oh,
You still want to pursue real, I just want to
no,
be clear.
okay. I will make a motion to deny proceeding with the immediate proceeding of the quiet zones at only Forest Grove and Oakton.
Good. Do I have a second?
Second, Taylor.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is hereby carried. Thank you, everyone. Review, discussion, and possible action on an intergovernmental agreement with Waukesha County regarding data processing services, property tax assessment, and billing for the 2026-27 tax years. Matt, you want to give us a quick overview?
Yes, President Knudsen. So this is something actually that the clerk brought forward in preparation for the upcoming tax season. Waukesha County prints our tax bills, and they do it in 2-year agreement increments. And we are up for renewal. And the county has done a great job at printing our tax bills, and they do a great job at collecting our tax money for us. So staff recommends approval.
Any questions or comments? Do I have a motion?
Make a motion to approve the agreement with Waukesha County on data processing, property tax assessment, and billing. 26 and 27.
Second, Kreiser.
We have a motion and a second. Further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is hereby carried. Lastly, review, discussion, and possible action on a proposal to change internet service provider for cell tower tenant on a village water tower. Again, Matt?
Well, I can start us off, and if I run afoul of the details, Dave can help me out. But T-Mobile is a carrier that rents space on our water tower at 1515 Sunny Ridge Road. And they are looking to change the company that provides them internet service, which requires village sign-off of this. And staff does not have authority to sign anything, so we're looking for the village board to approve it.
Are there any questions or comments? Yes, sir.
Mr. Dave, would you sign it?
I can sign it, yes.
Would you sign it, though?
You agree with it?
Yeah, would you agree with it and sign it?
I think he's just asking if you have any concerns with their request.
I don't have any concerns.
And Matt, you have no concerns either?
I don't. This is, it's not modifying the lease or anything. This is really a notice and approval that they're seeking through the lease you have with them to do some light maintenance is how I would, so they just need sign off.
Any further discussion or question? Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the proposal to change internet service provider for the cell tower tenant on the water tower at 1515 Sunny Ridge Road.
Second, Grabowski.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is hereby carried. Item 9 is citizen comments. Again, we have nobody here yet, unless Ann. Oh, okay. Item 10 is adjournment.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We are hereby adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
I'm so sorry.
Very good meeting.
Hey, Jeff. Jeff?
Yes. Yeah, I saw.